12% of the entire GDP of Europe, 60% of the working population, directly or indirectly, and 12% of the entire GDP are involved in one way or another with cooperatives. Cooperatives are worker-owned businesses or customer-owned businesses. You know, like the local health food co-op where you join and you're a member and you own a piece of it and you get a discount if you shop there, and if you work a few hours a week, you get an even better discount, and at the end of the year, if there's any profit, it gets sent out to all the members. That is a normal standard operating procedure. Just get this. Worker-owned cooperatives in Europe produce an estimated 12% of the GDP of the European Union, this is from Stephen Hill's piece, and involve directly or indirectly at least 60% of the population. Besides the Mondragon co-op in Spain, where Louise and I did our show from there a few months ago, if you saw it or heard it, we were there. I mean, we actually saw this firsthand. This is a $5.5 billion corporation owned by its workers. The CEO makes 3 times what the lowest paid janitor makes. 3 times. Besides the Mondragon co-ops in Spain, in which 256 companies employ 100,000 people in industry, retail, finance, and education, there's also Co-op Italia, which operates the largest supermarket chain in Italy, employing 56,000 people and has more than 6 million members. Housing co-ops like Poland's TUW and the Cooperative Group in Britain, which is the world's largest consumer-owned business with 4.5 million members. Europe has figured out an economic model that actually works, and we are stuck listening to Tom Friedman tell us that, it's just got to be free trade. Just let them do whatever they want. You know, these big transnational corporations, they'll figure it out. And if government doesn't do anything about anything, then maybe some entrepreneur someplace who's got a best friend in India and a buddy who's an engineer in Russia and can have a manufacturing plant in Vietnam will make something that's cool. I mean, come on, Tom. Edward in Orange County, listening on K-Talk. Hey, Edward, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I was curious as to if you think that the Republicans really do like taxes.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean in the effect that they certainly like to spend money if you look at their record.
Right.
And they use tax dollars to do so. They want to privatize Medicare, which basically is a private tax. They want to privatize Social Security, which would basically be a private tax going into private pockets. They were successful with the health care reform in making sure that most of it goes into private pockets. And,
right.
And it's my view that they like to exploit the system, claim that they're not for taxes, but they love tax dollars. They just like them to go into their pockets.
Well, what they're really advocating, what the Republicans are really advocating for is kingdoms of enormous wealth, which is what corporations are as viewed in the United States. They're clearly not so much in Germany because you've got 50% of the board of directors of all German corporations are employees. But yeah, and good point, Edward. And the Republicans are all in favor of somebody taking your money. They just don't want it to be a democratically elected government, God forbid. You ever hear of a guy by the name of William A. Niskanen? William Niskanen is the chairman of the board of the Cato Institute. And back in 2007, he did an analysis which has, the Atlantic Monthly wrote an article about it, and it's buried on a page on the Cato Institute's website, and that's it. It's like it never happened. Nobody wants to talk about it. Because he discovered something that was so shocking that even the Cato Institute is horrified by it. What he discovered when he looked, he was asking the question, why is it that Reagan cut taxes and government exploded in size? The size of government almost doubled under Reagan. Our debt tripled under Reagan, and taxes were cut in half. Now, why would government increase? Because the theory at the time of Reaganomics was that if you blow up the debt by cutting taxes, that Americans will be so horrified by the debt that they, through their elected representatives, will demand less government because they don't want the debt. That's the theory of Reaganomics. So he says, why didn't that work? And then what happened when Bill Clinton came into power and raised taxes, and the size of government in the last 2 years that he was in office actually shrank. And then George W. Bush comes into office and drops taxes again, runs up the debt from $5 trillion to $13 trillion. And the size of government, again, the military budget in the United States from 2000 to 2008 almost doubled. And other parts of government increased. It turns out what Chairman Niskanen discovered was that whenever income taxes in the United States, overall, across the board, when they equal less than 19% of GDP, the government has become essentially cheaper, and so people want more of it, including corporations. It doesn't matter about the debt. Government is cheaper. Whereas when taxes are above 19%, government is more expensive, and people demand less of it. So whenever, and right now it's around 17.3% of GDP is our tax, is a total income tax base. So whenever taxes are above 19%, government actually shrinks in size over time, including the military. And when government, and when the cost of, and when total tax load is below 19%, in other words, here's the bottom line. Lower taxes lead to more government, bigger government. Higher taxes lead to smaller government. It's how the government stayed lean and mean from the 40s up until the 80s. I mean, it grew, but it didn't grow as fast as the economy. It's fascinating stuff from the Cato Institute. Raise taxes now.